freaking dog would bark, 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 bark. We yell at it, out the back door, of course it did nothing. They just added to the bark,
Yeah. Everybody in our family, both my husband's and my family, they spoiled, what out of the dogs. My sister-in-law has two Great Pyrenees, and they're therapy dogs, and they're the sweetest dogs.
I think I've seen them.
They're like little ponies, but they're
big
really
dogs.
good. They're huge.
Yeah.
One weighs 150 something, 158, and the other weighs 135. But they're incredibly gentle,
Saw
good
the
natured.
zoo thing this morning. Maybe America's largest tortoise, 350 pounder.
Which moves very slowly.
Alrighty, welcome. We'll get started here.
We have a quorum?
Saturday, yeah, almost a quorum. Saturday, May 19th, Apple Cider Q&A.
Are you
Listening.
an Apple user in any way?
Oh,
No.
you got an iPad sitting there.
Yes, but I like to listen, and I get about maybe 30% of what you're talking about, and then I get excited because I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. We hear that from a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay, well then I'm not.
And eventually it'll osmose in.
Yes, that's what I'm hoping. I'm really hoping.
All right, I just lost my projection. And now it's back. No? It worked fine Wednesday. Why is it not working today? All right. Are we not on the right input on the projector? There we are. I think the projector keeps switching away. You know how projectors scan for input?
Nextdoor.com, the neighborhood meeting place.
Mm-hmm.
They advertise and ask for all sorts of services. Plumber, I need a plumber, I need somebody to mow my lawn. There's one or two kids that are advertising that they will do lawn maintenance, like mowing lawns, and they call themselves Jew Crew. It might be two Jew Crew. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah.
And anyway, it's funny. I had to talk about it. I have a friend, one of my poker buddies, who's Jewish, New York City. I told him about I went to see Dave Bromberg. You ever seen Dave Bromberg? You know who he is?
No, the name's familiar.
He's awesome. He's been around since the 70s. He did, Bojangles.
Mm-hmm.
He did one of the best versions of that. Jerry Jeff Walker was probably he wrote it. There were a couple others that did it. But, there are other Jewish blues singers, but not all that many. But he's one of them. We saw him at right here. And it was an interesting, except when I went to Irwin's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
That was where I was in an environment with, virtually all Jews in the audience, at the funeral. Not all, you were there, I think. And but I went to see Dave Bromberg here, and he used to. I remember him when he was in the '70s, young, 30-ish guy, and he had, the Jew fro, the black, and he was very thin, and I was really anticipating seeing him. Well, there's a picture of him up there, but he came out, and I said to Carol, it's Saul from Homeland, because he looks like Manny Patinkin. But he still sings that same, cool music.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Can you play some of that?
Oops. Let's see if we have
Summer Wages.
a link. Well, we should be able to bring up
Man Should Never
the
Gamble.
list.
Let me see.
So that's his latest album? No, that's
So
from 2016. So that was the album that's on his website.
Yeah, well, that's. He said he had a new one. I didn't look to see buy anything. But anyway, it was in an audience, and I never was so aware of being a minority that was looking at all of it. And I didn't expect to see because of the group thing, you know. And but they were also all old.
So he's got that bluesy rock sound.
I believe she's a one-man woman, and I know he's a one-man house.
Go to YouTube and put in Robert. Man Should Never Gamble. That's a great one. He's got a couple of gambling songs. There's Bojangles. That's probably his #1 song.
Keep on drinking.
No, well, that's probably there's a lot. It's amazing how drinking is such a big thing. Diamond Lil, that might be a Man Should Never Gamble. Might not be the title of the song.
Man should never gamble.
That's it. Man should never gamble.
Man should never gamble.
Yeah.
Man should never gamble.
So this is the New York City concert.
But he does songs.
More than he can stand to lose.
Some of the songs will go on for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
They're
Any more than he can stand to lose.
I wonder if he's coming to the Jazz Fest.
No, but where we missed him, he's been at the German House a couple of times. There's some good stuff. We're going to Geneva. They have their Smith Street Opera House in Geneva.
Yeah.
We're going to see Steve Stills and Judy Collins.
Oh,
together.
nice. I saw Judy Collins years ago at the Eastman Theater.
Yeah, I was there. Probably.
I heard something. Are you familiar with Gordon Lightfoot?
Oh yeah.
Well, I saw him in college. I went to school in Canada, and I saw him in college. And I just heard on NPR that he sang. Somebody called him and was talking about him. He had to have oxygen during his concert, and I got so depressed hearing that.
You gotta get it out.
It's almost scary to think a lot of the musicians I listened to growing up are now in their 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And you know, these old men are still, you know, touring and doing rock concerts.
I saw Rod Stewart last summer, and he was good. He put on a
Well,
good kind
he can't get worse because his basic thing is that gravelly voice. And what's it going to do? Get more gravelly.
The only
Yeah.
thing is with the Endurance, what they do is they bring really good backup singers and dancers,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how they break the thing up so that they can kind of,
That's
make it
one
through
way.
an hour and a half or 2 hour concert.
The other way is they bring their children.
Yeah.
I saw Garfunkel. He was with his son. His son did some of the
I
like
wanted
the high
to
ones
see
that he couldn't.
Garfunkel. How was he?
Oh, he was fabulous.
I really wanted to see
We
him.
saw in well, he's passed away now. Glenn Campbell. His daughter was traveling with
Right.
him. And
Well, that's when he had.
she didn't sing so much as her job was to
Right.
keep him on target because
Right.
a lot of times he'd want to start singing a song that he just sang,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and she said, "No, we did that one, Dad."
Yeah.
move on.
We saw the farewell concert.
And
That must
the
be
other-
rather nostalgic.
The other one I saw was Bill Medley. He had his daughter sing,
Okay.
and Bill Medley, the Righteous Brothers, and he told a story how they became the Righteous Brothers. They played in San Diego at the Navy, the bars where Navy guys would come in,
Uh-huh.
and especially they were doing blues stuff, and so they had a lot of black sailors coming in, and they'd sit there and then one of the black sailors yelled out, "You're righteous, man!"
Oh my
And
goodness.
so they became the Righteous
That's
Brothers.
cool.
So that's righteous, man, and so hey, that's a good title.
There was a episode of Mike Rowe's podcast. There it is, episodes. I don't know if I can find it. Mike Rowe, who he's narrator on History Channel. What was it doing? On History Channel and Discovery and those channels. But he's got a podcast called That's the Way I Heard It. And he does basically backstories on people you know, but you don't know their backstory.
And some of them are apocryphal stories.
Well, most of he's researched them all as best he can. Oh, what? No, why can't I find the name of it? Because I don't remember.
Well,
So
I believe the Bill Medley story because he told it himself.
I love behind the scenes stuff. I love it.
was it Send Me the Bill? Yeah, Send Me the Bill. It's about two concert promoters, Bill Gates and Bill Howard. No, one was a record executive, one was a racetrack owner. And these three brothers from England, one of them was 10 and the other two were 9 and 8. And they wanted to play at the racetrack. So the racetrack did this thing, so like during an intermission, people would play in the racetrack and other people would throw money down to them. And this is back in the 50s. And whatever money they earned playing, they could keep. And it was, what was it? It was Little Johnny and the Blue Cats was the name these kids called themselves. And they went out and played this amazing set of Righteous Brothers and Everly Brothers and all this great music at the time. And they ended up playing 5 or 6 songs when usually, people get booed off after the first line. And the racetrack owner, whose name was Bill, knew a DJ whose name was Bill, and it was Bill Gates and Bill Goodman, I think, that eventually signed these kids up for a record deal. And they asked the kid, "Is your name Little Johnny?" No, and your brothers aren't blue, so what's a crazy name? So well, that's the name we had in Manchester where we were growing up. Meanwhile, the 8-year-old kid. And they said, well, it's too bad you don't have your own songs too. And Little Johnny said, well, yeah, I do write my own songs. I've got about 150 of them, including one I wrote this morning. And so these little kids went out on tour, basically Bill Gates got them on the radio, and they named themselves. And later on, people thought the band's name was based on the initials of Little Johnny. But it wasn't. It was Bill Gates and Bill Goodman, the Bee Gees.
Oh, cool.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so it was real. So that Send Me the Bill is probably
Bill Goodman,
the Bee Gees. Yeah, the Bees and the Gees. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was really interesting reading these the backstory that Mike Rowe has researched and puts into these podcasts. They're only like 10 minutes long, and he calls it for people for smart people with a short attention span. And that was just a really amazing one, how they turned in to this amazing group and such a power in the 60s and 70s.
Well, I'm almost religiously interested in serendipity, coincidence, how things just happen. And we went to Turning Stone. I've been going to casinos for about 10 years now.
Really?
I play poker, and lately in the last couple of months I've been playing blackjack. But we went to a concert at Turning Stone. Gene Pitney, who when I was a teenager,
Oh my God, I loved his stuff.
he was my number one.
Oh, yeah.
I loved Gene Pitney. And so Carol and I, we've been together since '65. And our first concert was, we went from Auburn to Syracuse, about 25 miles, on a bus to go to the concert at the State Fairgrounds. so we were in the Coliseum there in the State Fair. Saw Gene Pitney, bought a program, you know, with his pictures and all that. So 10 years ago, we went to our first concert at a casino. It was at Turning Stone. And we were sitting down close, and we started talking to people about how Gene Pitney was our first concert 50 years ago and 40 then, but a long time ago. I go home, and our house is very neat. Carol keeps it neat. Our basement is totally nuts. It's cluttered. It's cluttered. I go in the basement, and what do I find without even looking for it? Without even looking. I turn something over, and there's the program from that concert.
Still had the program. Oh my God.
I had the program from that concert, and here we just went to see him. We told the story,
Weird.
and there's the program right there. It was just amazing. I don't even know where it is now. After 40 years, it was right there, but 10 years later, who knows? But it's just strange how that all happened.
A lot of times those old concert tickets or concert posters are valuable. It's because they're usually just thrown away. Nobody keeps them, especially for a big show where a song was played for the first time or a song was played for the last concert someone did before they passed.
I have
Yeah, any computer questions?
Yeah.
my unique antique is I have a roll of Scott towels. Why is that a unique antique, you ask? 'Cause I was doing a kitchen remodel someplace, and I found it there. The only thing on it was the date, the copyright date of the print on the thing, 1949.
Oh my God.
It's unopened. I have an unopened roll of Scott towels. There's a little hole in the top where fingers are pushed through, but basically it's unopened, unwrapped, or it's wrapped but unopened. 1949. So, you know, just for the date and the uniqueness. How many people have antique Scott towels?
You have to go on the Antique Roadshow.
Yeah.
All right, what is this worth?
I'd be tempted to do that. Just say, well, what do you think? What's a roll of paper towels, you know, go for these days?
If the Barry, Revan, and Maurice. So everyone thought Bee Gees was Barry Gibb,
Yeah.
but it wasn't.
I know, I always thought it was.
Yeah.
Well, it's three of them. Bill Gates, Bill Goodman, and Barry Gibb.
Is
Yeah.
it just, who's just,
BG.
is Maurice the only one alive? There's two of them died, I know.
Yes. Who is still alive? That was one of
That's
the.
ironic.
Yeah.
He shows the song "Staying Alive."
Yeah.
Which one is staying alive?
So who's left?
Who's still alive? First one.
So Maurice died in.
Go up
Oh
to.
no, Maurice is gone. Huh?
Yeah, who's still alive? They're both there. Yeah, Barry is the oldest one.
Only Barry, the oldest.
Yeah.
65 is still alive.
So Maurice died in 2003. Andy died young at 30
65
of a heart malfunction. Yeah.
6 years ago, so now he's 71.
Yeah.
That's like Beach Boys too.
Yeah.
There's only, ironically, Brian.
Beach Boys are on my crap list. I like
How
the
come?
music. We went to a concert in Syracuse. It wasn't in the State Fair. It was next to it in a big lot they had there. And somebody else opened for them, and it was cold, miserable, drizzly, you know, evening. Temperature down around 40 or something like that, you know. And so we were uncomfortable. The other band finished, and even though I'm sure they were there, they took over a freaking hour to set up and play. We were just miserable for an hour. And I thought, why did they do that? You
How
know,
long
they,
ago was this? Which
well,
one?
30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
You know, it was a while back.
Didn't Brian come within the last year? Because we were going to be away because I wanted to go and see him. Pretty sure Brian played like the Kodak.
I like their music, but
Yeah.
they were never really my super favorites.
Oh,
you know.
I saw them a bunch of times when I was in high school.
Gene Pitney.
There was a
Roy Orbison.
Oh, Roy
There it is.
Orbison. Oh, love Roy.
there was a Green Day concert in England a few months ago. When did it come out? Oh, July, almost a year ago now, at Hyde Park. And so this is a backstage camera pointing out at the crowd. What, 100,000 people at Hyde Park? And they had music playing while the band is getting ready to set up. And it started playing Bohemian Rhapsody. So 50,000 people singing along to Bohemian Rhapsody. So this was Green Day's backstage cam, yeah. And just to sing the whole song. Stupid projector. I wonder if the cord would work better. See if that works. And then, so that was pretty neat. But then I found Bohemian Rhapsody acted out. Yeah, here we go. I think this is it. So they took the lyrics, and we're gonna get an ad first. They took the lyrics of the song and acted it out as if it were a script. Yeah, there we are.
Mama, I just killed a man. Put a gun against his head. Pulled my trigger. Now he's dead. Mama, life had just begun. Now I've gone and thrown it all away. Mama. I didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again, this time tomorrow, you carry on. Carry on as if nothing really matters. It's too late. My time has come. Send shivers down my spine. Body's aching all the time. Goodbye, everybody. I gotta go. Gotta leave you all behind. Face the truth. Mama. I don't want to die. I sometimes wish I'd never been born at all.
I see a little silhouette of a man!
Scaramouche! Scaramouche! Will you do the fandango? Thunderbolt. And lightning.
Very, very frightening. Me! Galileo! Galileo! Galileo Figaro.
Magnifico. And I'm just a poor boy. And nobody loves me.
He's just a poor boy from a poor family. Spare him his life from this monstrosity.
Easy come, easy go.
Will you let me go?
Bismillah!
No, we will not let you go.
Let him go, Bismillah!
We will not let you go.
Let him go, Bismillah!
We will not let you go.
Let me go!
Will not let you go.
Let me go!
Never. Never let you go.
Let me go!
Never.
Let me go!
No. No. No.
No, no, no.
Oh, Mamma Mia, Mamma Mia!
Mamma mia, let me go.
Beelzebub. It's the devil put aside for me.
For
the
me!
For me. Any way the wind blows.
Beelzebub is the devil serves out for me.
Action.
Beelzebub.
I wonder if Queen ever realized how big that song was gonna be. I read about bands, they write the song, it's just a song, but sometimes you can tell it's gonna be huge. Now, apparently, one of the guys that won American Idol is singing Queen's frontman. Yeah.
I know his name too, but I'm blocking it. Adam.
Oh, Lambert?
Yeah. Yeah, he's
Oh, that's
singing.
right. I freaking
You
knew it.
hate Queen.
Yeah.
No, but I still know a lot about stuff. I
Adam
do like my
Lambert.
music. Yeah, that's right.
You watch The Voice?
You know,
Very accurate, not 100%.
Time for a very special performance featuring our final five with one of the legendary bands. This is Queen with Adam Lambert.
Actually, I have two concerts. One was mostly Spanish. And his fabulous. And Black Hunter and both they lost. But he himself his own song. He could have had a Mark Anthony. He had saying Mark Anthony, you'll never know who was in prison. But the other one I picked, first time I found was written
Yep. Singing with Queen on UK version of UK Idol. Well, I've read that sometimes the runners-up do better than the winners. Well, yeah, one of the problems.
Ruben Studdard, I think, was runner-up. He did real well.
Yeah.
The gay guy from Buckdown and Black and then the guy won, and then he ran for office down in South Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I read that Kelly.
Jennifer Hudson didn't win.
no.
Yeah, Kelly Clarkson, one of the early winners. One of the problems is, they signed you to a record deal. It was like a 10-year record deal.
Right.
She
It's like
finally
Jack-
was able to make her own money selling, releasing her own record.
I've heard the same thing, that you're better off being in the top 5 than
Yeah,
you are
not
winning.
winning because you're
Yeah.
shackled by a
You're right.
contract.
Yep.
There's just too many
There's an Etsy store selling vintage Scott towels.
Oh, really?
So depending on what you got, it might be worth something.
Where is it?
It's an Etsy store.
Etsy. Never heard of it, but I'll look it up.
It's more of an artsy, crafty type store for people
The other
selling.
antique, I did research. This reminded me of research. I was researching Milky Way Dark. Milky Way.
Mhm.
Milky Way Dark. They call it Midnight.
Here's someone wants $140 for a dispenser.
Oh, and I got the towels to go in.
Yeah.
There you go.
They should be worth 140 bucks. But Milky Way is, you know what a Milky Way is. I don't have to explain that. But it's dark chocolate. And when I was a kid, they sold that same candy bar, but they had a different name. They call it Forever Yours. That was the name of the
Really?
candy bar. It was Milky Way, except dark chocolate instead of milk chocolate, and that went away, and then now it's come back. I researched it. I got some of the images of what it looked like before, and but it's never around. It's my favorite, but like at Halloween candy, we got the bags of Snickers, Milky Ways, Baby Ruths, Milky Way Dark.
There's a Milky Way Midnight, which might be
Same thing.
the new name. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Midnight,
this,
but
yeah.
they don't have it. It's hard to find.
Yep. This is kind of interesting that it's common that candies are called different things in different countries.
Oh,
So
yeah, right.
the Milky Way bar in the rest of the world is closer to what we call the Three Musketeers rather than Milky Way.
I'm trying to think what the Mars bar was. It was one that had a big almond in the middle, and in Europe, in England, they call that the Mars bar. No, that was the Mars bar.
Yeah, here's what. Yeah, the Forever Yours came out in 36 and discontinued in 79. Then they brought it back in 89 as Milky Way Dark, and now Milky Way Midnight. I see it at Wegmans, especially in the register aisles.
Oh yeah, individually.
Yeah, but not bags.
But you can't find bags of it. You can't find bite size. You know, the fun size bars. Rarely, except I found one exception. I found an exception. I can buy in the dollar store, the Dollar General.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy a bag with 10 little bite-sized ones for $1.
Yeah.
That's my supply now.
You get your fix, huh?
Yep.
The Dollar General, people are protesting them all over because they're cutting into the mom and pop stores. They come in and sort of like Walmart.
That's a giant corporate behemoth.
And there are a huge number of them all over the place.
I get them mixed up. Dollar
Well,
General.
Apparently they have them at Target. The minis in a bag.
There you go.
I'll look. It's out that way. Anyway.
Yeah, I was watching Graham Norton the other day, and they American actors and then some British actors, and they were talking about kissing scenes, and especially their first kissing scene they had to do, and the one guy said somebody told him to make sure you use a lot of tongue, which is completely wrong. And then it was Allison Janney was the American actress, and she said, telling the story that her scene partner came to her and said to make sure she put on Neosporin on her lips. So a lot of people will have been told, Vaseline or, chapstick before a kissing scene, but she thought Neosporin was weird. And the Brits didn't know what Neosporin was. There's nothing sold under that brand name. And so they were trying to figure out what it was in Britain, and they never did, at least during the show. So then I tried looking it up, and there's some sort of polysporin type product in Britain, but it's not very common. And here we use it for everything, cuts and burns and everything. And I kind of like watching Graham Norton. They get a lot of international celebrities, and there was one show I saw with, was it Sophia Loren, I think, and they had what was it? They had a Brummie, a Geordie, and a Scotsman. And Graham was joking with her that she couldn't understand what any of them were saying. All their accents were so hard. Even Graham has
a Brummie and a Geordie?
Brummie is from Birmingham, and Geordie is from north. What's the big town in the north? Newcastle, yes. And the regional dialects are so varied across England that the joke is no one knows how to understand anyone from another region. Yeah. And even Graham, who's Scottish, or not Scottish, Irish, he has affected a middle UK legible accent. So it's kind of the American news anchors. They joke about it's the American Midwest accent, but if you go to the Midwest, that's not the accent. It's just sort of it's the most understandable accent for all the different accents. I remember finding a video once about all the UK accents, and someone talking about 17 different British accents this woman can do.
The UK is incredibly diverse in terms of accents, and it just so happens that I can do many of these accents as my party trick. So come with me as I take you on a guided tour through all of the accents and archetypes of Great Britain.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm
Yep.
Siobhan Thompson, and this is Anglophenia. And what I'm speaking right now is RP, received pronunciation, or, you know, your standard BBC English.
Yeah.
It's spoken across the country, generally by middle, and upper class people. Think of Martin Freeman, Benedict Cumberbatch, or, you know, most of the presenters of BBC News. So, good evening. It's 9 o'clock, and this is the news. I'm very important. Heightened RP is generally only spoken on film and television now. So you're going to think of Noel Coward or the Dowager Countess in Downton Abbey. Oh, Gerald, I do love you, but you're so terribly, terribly poor. Now, London is the accent that most people outside of Britain can recognise, you know, that classic lock,
The
stock and
Cockney,
two smoking
yeah.
barrels. Get out of my pub! Go on, get out of it! Shut
And
it,
then Michael
you
Caine in
tart.
his accent.
East Anglia is a flat, boggy kind of place with a flat, boggy kind of accent. I'd love to give you an example of somebody that comes from there that speaks like this, but they all lose this accent as soon as they can. Stephen Fry's from Norfolk, but he doesn't speak like this because he's posh. Here's a kind of classic kind of East Anglia phrase. I done dropped my computer in the fan and it's broken. Now let's go across the island to the West Country, which is a much rounder sound. It's farmland full of sheep and cows and apples. Think of like Sam Ganji from The Lord of the Rings or Hagrid from the Harry Potter movies. Oh, you bloody kids, get off my land! Or, oh, Mr. Frodo, don't let him turn me into anything unnatural. And then when you go down to Cornwall, it gets a little bit more piratey. So, hoist the mizzenmast, Squire Trelawney.
Yeah.
Now, Southern Welsh is this great sing-songy kind of an accent. Think of Tom Jones or Richard Burton. You know, rage, rage against the dying of the light. Bloody hell, I love Dylan Thomas. Northern Welsh is where the singer Duffy is from. It's a breathier, thicker kind of an accent, and most people from there speak Welsh at home, and English is a second language. So, you know, diolch yn fawr. Now, across the country to the West Midlands and Birmingham, it's a very nasal kind of an accent, mostly on account of all the industry that went on in that area. Cat Daly, who presents So You Think You Can Dance, is from there.
I have
and
a hard
so
time
is Ozzy
understanding that,
Osbourne, you know. Sharon, where's the bloody remote? Yeah, that voice that he does isn't because of drugs, it's just where he's from.
Yeah. Oh, he's drunk all the
Scouse
time.
is your
that's it,
classic Liverpool accent. The Beatles are from there, and so's Paul McGann. They were also made European Capital of Culture a couple of years ago by the EU, so don't tell me they're not cultured, alright? Up into Lancashire, and you know, think of Christopher Eccleston or most of the cast of the Downstairs in Downton Abbey. Daisy, get those buns out the oven before they burn. Oh, Mr. Bates. So, across the Pennines to Yorkshire, it's a much kind of flatter accent from Lancashire, and they cut off a lot of the words. So I'm going to Pub Up Hill. Think of Sean Bean from Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. One does not simply walk into Mordor. So in Northumberland and Newcastle, he's speaking a Geordie accent. So, you know, think of the Geordie Shore or Carol Cole. Remember, she got fired from the X Factor because nobody could understand a word she was saying. Or Billy Elliot. All I want to do is dance bally, but me dad makes me box. Edinburgh's the capital of Scotland. It's a very soft, maybe a little snooty kind of an accent. Think of Ewan McGregor or Dame Maggie Smith as Professor McGonagall. That's 10 points taken from Gryffindor, Mr. Potter. Glasgow is a much thicker kind of an accent. Billy Connolly and Peter Capaldi are both from there. They cut off a lot of the words, so I haven't any butter, so I've got to go to the shop, you know. And so up to the very north, to the Highlands of Scotland. Think of Amy Pond from Doctor Who, or maybe Sir Robert Burns. The best laid plans of mice and men, gang after glee. Now let's go to Northern Ireland, and it's all about the vowels with a Northern Irish accent like, how now, brown cow. Liam Neeson is from there. I've got a very particular set of skills. I know he doesn't say it in that accent in the movie, but it sounds well cool, so, like... And finally, Southern Ireland is obviously not a part of the United Kingdom, but I can do a Dublin accent, so let's just do it. It's a pretty classic Irish accent with a lot of assonance to it, so Sinead O'Connor's from there. Nothing compares to you. That is all from me. Tell me if there's any British accents that I missed, because I love a challenge. Don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching.
Subscribe and like, yeah. It's kind of neat. Now, there was one with American accents, but it wasn't as good.
I can't understand Southerners very well.
There's a singer I discovered on YouTube. I find a lot of good music on YouTube. I discovered Amy McDonald. Amy McDonald. And Amy McDonald is a fabulous singer. You can understand what she says. But when she starts talking,
Yeah.
Nothing. I'm amazed with singers that don't have an accent when they're singing.
Yeah. Well, because it's the generic English to feed to a wide audience.
But it amazes me.
Yeah.
when she starts talking,
Nothing.
Yeah, the first gig I played was when I was about 15. I can't remember exactly where it was, but that was around the time of it. And I started playing the guitar when I was about 12.
She's more legible here than the other interview I
But
saw.
still, you have to really concentrate.
It went into the charts at number 2. No, number 1 back in... No, number 2 back in July.
Then it went to number 1 in January, and it's currently at number 2.
I think it's down. I think it's in the top 10 somewhere just now. But
So you've misinformed me. He told me it was number 2.
It's my fault I haven't said
I
it.
didn't have time to read it.
But just to give you an idea what I discovered, this is just one of her songs at random. Oh, you gotta go through the commercial.
Yeah.
Skip ad. It's called This Is the Life.
Sold over 12 million records.
Oh, she's fabulous. It's one I'll go through, and this thing over on the right, that'll show you what's going on. And you'll see other people singing the same song or them singing something else. So this is just hard driving. The guitar is hard. That's Amy McDonald.
Kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's sweet. You just discover when you do this, great music, and then other stuff and you rediscover. I was listening yesterday, and I went to look at Dave Bromberg. So I said other stuff by him, and then I saw some oldies. One of my all-time favorite, of course, Janis Joplin's my absolute favorite. But Brenda Lee, she does fabulous stuff. Stuff that isn't even, it's not jambalaya. You gotta go
She
meal
was
mile.
50s, wasn't she?
She was very young when she got started, and just Nora Jones, and you hear the people you know, but singing songs that you don't know, and Nora Jones, her music background.
Who's her father?
Ravi Shankar.
Okay.
So here she's singing. American pop and country music, and she's got, when you see her, she's got sort of a ethnic look about her that you didn't know her father was rather Shankar. You wouldn't be able to say,
Pinpoint.
you know, she's Indian.
Yeah.
But and what's interesting is that her father's got a Grammy for playing the sitar, and she's got Grammys. And her sister, she has a half sister, who's got Grammys for playing the sitar.
Here was Mr. Langley,
So,
and he
He's
taught
one of
me
the
to
most
sing a
famous
song.
computers singing his song.
If you'd like to hear it,
and who's
I can sing it for you.
The first computer song.
Yes.
Oh,
I'd like to hear it, Hal.
Hal, yeah.
Sing it for me.
Daisy, Daisy.
Yeah,
It's
Daisy Bell.
called Daisy. 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 Give me your answer.
Dave was killing him.
I'm
Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen 2001.
all for the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage. I can't afford a carriage. But
And then the very first computer to
what
sing.
do you think you're doing?
So the song is from 1892. And 1961, the first computer to have music and sing. Nope. They did it on purpose. And a lot of people have speculated that Arthur Clarke named it HAL 9000 because HAL is one letter ahead of IBM. Each letter is one ahead. He claims no, it was heuristic algorithm. The computer was the whole room. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm crazy all for the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage. I can't afford a carriage. But you look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle built for two.
Yep.
Okay, here's a computer question. I just bought this computer. I was going to sell it to my dental hygienist. But it got the cursor dance. The cursor would hop around and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I researched it, and I found that you have to go to the accessibility and turn that. Oh, isn't she good?
Did you like Dusty Springfield?
Oh yeah, yeah. Brenda, oh yeah, and Barbara Lewis. Hello, Stranger. But
Oops.
you go to accessibility and you turn off, you tell it to ignore the keypad. And then you have to have a mouse plugged in, and you can go back and basically it's turning off and turning on.
Right.
Thing. And then the jumping is gone.
Sometimes the cursor jumping is a malfunctioning trackpad. And we've tried just disconnecting the trackpad inside the computer, but then the keyboard doesn't work either because the circuitry is linked, so that's annoying. And so sometimes you can, in that accessibility, to ignore the trackpad and use an external mouse, and that's a lot cheaper than replacing the internal trackpad on the computer.
Yeah, I went to the accessibility. I turned it off. using a mouse, I went back, turned it back on, and it wasn't dancing anymore. But now, like in just doing this stuff, that's why I wasn't able to turn it off instantly.
Yeah.
Because the mouse wasn't responding. It just jumps. It's not. Right now, it's jumping. I'm way over on the left side. I start to move, and it's moving, but halts and jumps.
Yep. Yeah, that's usually a symptom of a dying trackpad. The sensor that senses your finger going across it is malfunctioning, and so it doesn't read. It kind of breaks both ways. It doesn't read what you are dragging, and then it reads when you're not dragging your finger, and so it can end up giving you a false cursor when you're touching it, and then the cursor can move by itself when you're not touching it.
So I haven't sold this machine because of that.
Yeah.
I don't want her to get the machine and say, because I would sell it to her for what I paid for it. I was going to add on.
With the caveat, you have
more.
to use a external USB mouse.
Okay, if that's all there is, but this is for her and for her niece who's in South Carolina. I can't even talk to her, so I'm not selling it to her. I'll find another better one.
Yeah.
And this I can use, but.
And generally, to replace the trackpad, you're probably looking at a couple $100 at a service shop.
Yeah.
On the older computers, the trackpad can be replaced.
Apart from the trackpad, let's rule out the trackpad. What would other possible causes be? Or is there none?
Not really, because the trackpad is what controls the cursor.
90+%
Yeah.
It's the trackpad.
Yeah. Theoretically, it could be a corrupted mouse driver, but when you use an actual mouse and it works fine, that kind of rules that out. On the new computers, basically starting with the Retina models, the battery is now glued to the underside of the keyboard, and that generally means it's not replaceable without replacing the entire top case. So it's the top case, the keyboard, the trackpad, and the battery are all one big piece. So it makes it a little easier to replace, but it does make replacement much more expensive. Yeah, there are company. iFixit is one of the big ones that shows different ways to do it. You can try to pry the batteries out using some sort of solvent to dissolve the glue, but batteries are a pretty dangerous thing to be prying and cracking. And
when I took it apart, it was hard to get the screws out. And the reason it was hard to get the screws out was the case was pushed.
Yeah, the batteries will swell when they get old. Yeah.
An explosion.
Yep.
I got a new battery in. I thought, well, now I'm good to go for her.
Yep.
And it's something else.
That may have damaged the trackpad. Because the battery's right under the trackpad, it will push up on the trackpad. It's usually the button that will get messed up, but if it's the tracking, can also get messed up. It may be the connection is loose. Yeah, if the battery was swelling. Yeah, the older computers, the batteries were in a hard plastic shell. When they went to the Retina models, one thing they did is they took the plastic shell off. And they took the battery mechanisms out that hold the battery in, so they can make the battery physically bigger, which gives you longer battery life. But it does mean they're more susceptible to damage because there's no case around them anymore. So especially when you take them out. So whenever we're working on a computer, we're supposed to put a plastic battery cover over the battery when we're doing anything inside the computer, because you don't want to drop a screwdriver and have it puncture the battery. Really bad things happen when you puncture lithium batteries.
Okay, well that's something I can do, and I don't see I'm going to get any more solution on this one. It's a real frustrator.
Mm-hmm.
I get by with the iPad, and then I prefer the laptop, but it's a problem. And when I was playing games, I was playing some blackjack on there, and you got to move over to that spot.
Yep.
And it's jumping on you.
Yeah. Yeah, the iPads are often easier, especially for novice computer users, partly because they only do one thing at a time. With the computer, you've got so many icons that can confuse you, and you can accidentally click in the wrong place and lose the window you had open. But then they added multitasking features on the iPad, so you can have two programs running side by side.
Do you have earbuds with a round jack? Remember
Not
I showed
with
you the
me.
one? They didn't fit in here.
Yeah.
This is the computer that I couldn't get them to fit in. You couldn't physically.
I've got a regular audio cable, but not a headphone.
Yeah, 1/4 inch. It just seemed like.
I beg of cameras. Yeah, there's a regular mini stereo.
Okay, and this is gonna go in, and it goes all the way in. But that other one, the earbuds.
Because it's got four.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got four on it. Now, see that I need one of those cables. My new USB adapter has a microphone jack, but it needs that 4 position. So a normal jack is well, a stereo jack is 3 positions, left, right, and ground. Before that was so there's only 2 positions there, just left and right. And the ones that you get, typically the headphones you get with your phones, will have 4 positions. So it's left, right, ground, and then mic is the 4th one. And where's the Wikipedia entry? They had some pretty interesting ideas on it, or information. And there was a lot of uproar when Apple removed the headphone jack from the phones. And one of the things we pointed out is that phono plug has been around for 150 years, back in the early days of telegraph. So it's 3.5 millimeters is the standard version, and then the earlier phones were using 2.5 millimeter versions, and then they started using the 3.5 so that regular headphones would work. But now Apple is switching to Lightning-based headphones, and there's a lot of speculation that they're going to remove the Lightning port from future phones because they have the contactless charging. So you set your phone down on a charging pad and it charges, so you don't need to plug anything into it. And without having any external holes, it can make it a lot more water resistant. That's one of the biggest problems that face phone users now is getting your phone wet ruins it because the water gets down inside. So
yeah,
most.
I saw that in a TV thing. The guy was trying to be tough with some young punks. He walks over to him and takes the phone out of his hand. Instead of breaking it or throwing against the wall, he just casually drops it into a glass of water.
Yep.
The guy's going.
Yeah. Now most new phones now are water resistant, so they can get splashed, but not many of them are waterproof to get submerged.
My new speakers, the ones I got free at Del Lago, they give away gifts all the time. And we got a free speaker, Fisher, and they claim to be waterproof.
Yep. We had, for a while in our store, we had a waterproof speaker that would float, because it's horrible when they sink. But it was designed to float in your pool. So you could be swimming in the pool and your speakers could be with you, yeah.
Good sound.
Yep.
Okay, well, one of my computer things, by the way, I turned this off, the whole machine off and back on, and it's no longer dancing. It's just behaving normal.
Good.
But I assume that's, terminal problem. It's going to start again because it's happened several times. But opening it up and exploring that would be one of the things I can do. Another problem.
So here's the difference between the that's kind of hard to see up there, but some of the connectors are longer than other ones, and the one you had may have just been too long to fit in that.
Right. Right.
connection because it's
centimeters. Is that centimeters or inches?
that's millimeters. So one of them is 3 millimeters longer, and that can be enough. 2 millimeters. So one's 15 millimeters, one's 17 millimeters.
Well,
And
20 millimeters, 1 centimeter, right?
25.4 millimeters in an inch.
No. But
No.
20 millimeters.
20 millimeters is 2 centimeters. So left, right, ground, and then here's the Apple model. You know, left, right, ground. So tip, ring sleeve has the extra microphone in it and the control circuitry for the microphone. So in Apple's headphone jack, that little white brick sort of in the middle of the cable was the microphone and the controls. So you squeeze it once and it would do play, pause, double click, and it would switch songs. So it had that extra connector on it, and can end up being a little longer, so it doesn't fit into a jack that isn't designed for the 4 position.
Yeah. This one might have been too long, but it also seemed to have bigger diameter. Like I thought it was the shank was hitting the perimeter of the jack.
Maybe.
But anyway, I resolved the problem with HBO Now. That was perplexing me.
I'm perplexed.
So they got the, pardon? HBO Now is an app where you can stream HBO.
Without needing to pay your cable company for HBO, you pay HBO directly.
Well, no.
And so it's often cheaper.
I had HBO Now. My provider was iTunes.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't buying it directly from HBO. I was buying it from iTunes. They
Right.
were my provider.
That's the HBO Now
And
app.
Hulu offered me a better deal. Instead of $19 or $16.99 or something like that a month, it's $5 a month. There you go. Well, and so I will save, $12 a month for 6 months. So that's the better deal. But I already have my subscription with iTunes as my provider. But that didn't deter me. I signed up for Hulu. It cost me extra $2 for the rest of that month that I was already paid for. And I thought, well, who's your provider? I thought it was HBO Now.
Mm-hmm.
Was my provider. But no, it was iTunes. So I went to iTunes and I quit iTunes.
Yeah, cancel your subscription through iTunes.
Canceled my subscription. That was successful, and they gave me the advisory that I can still use it to the end of the month
Mm-hmm.
because it's paid. And so I didn't try to mess with it. Now, I'm pretty sure iTunes is out of the picture. And I paid for it with Hulu. Now, how do I do it? On Apple TV, I go to, well, first of all, I deleted the app right off of the Apple TV. Then I tried to download it again, and it wouldn't accept my password and ID.
You probably have to do it in the Hulu app.
No?
No?
Wasn't it. I went back and I confirmed my ID. In fact, I changed my ID so I would know exactly what it was. It still gave me...
Use your Hulu credentials in the app, not your Apple credentials.
Well, no, I can't even use it in that app. Because if I go to that app on Apple TV, I click it because I successfully downloaded HBO Now.
Mm-hmm.
It will tell me to renew my subscription or to subscribe.
Because it still thinks it's going to
iTunes.
Apple. Yeah.
I think, no, I am subscribed. What I discovered is going to the Apple TV, navigating down to iTunes and clicking iTunes is the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
I have to go down to Hulu.
Yep.
Click on Hulu, and then within Hulu, I find premium add-ons
Mm-hmm.
and click on that. So I got the same thing that most normal people would think, well, that's how you get to HBO Now, but it's not. You have to go through this.
Right, through the
down
Hulu
this
app rather
hallway,
than the
and
Apple
turn
app.
left at the corner and then
Yep.
up a flight of stairs, and then you can get to it. So it gets complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I resolved that. But what's going through my mind is about our club and what we provide for people. And there's a lot of people. I'm in the hierarchy of geeks. You're on Mount Olympus, and I bow down to you. And I tell all my friends you're the knowingest geek that I know. And but I'm pretty smart to people that don't know as much as I do.
I've always said everyone needs to be a guru to somebody.
I can explain things to people I've sold computers to, like Jackie, who comes in, you know, the Jackie Black. Yeah, funky last name. It'll come to me. And so to her, you know, I know everything. I said, well, actually, I don't know everything. I go to people when I'm perplexed,
Yeah.
you know, perplexed, and so on. And this is an example. I've got a similar problem that I would love to seduce you to come over or feed you, or Nick, what's his name, with Block the Cap?
Phil.
Phil, he
Yeah.
lives in the area. Come
Yeah.
on over. I'll give you a beer, and you can help me figure this out with Chromecast.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't get Chromecast working right. It used to work right, but it doesn't work right. And it tells me to download the Google app. But there's like 4 different apps that look like.
Yeah,
they
which
could
Google
be,
app? Yeah.
You know, which one? And then what do I do? You know, and somehow we should be figuring out a way to provide support for people all the way up the ladder. People who can help them. Someone who can come and help me successfully. I've almost been tempted to hire the computer geeks that drive around in a little Volkswagen with Geek Squad on the side. He lives just up the street, you know. But, you know, I can also figure out things. So maybe I figured out that HBO Now. Maybe I can figure out this Hulu thing if I spend, or not Hulu, but the other one that's giving me the problem.
Chromecast.
Chromecast. It used to work, and then all of a sudden it didn't. And I have a similar problem I've talked to you before about it, AirPlay. I can send AirPlay from my iPad, ESPN, you know, I got the ID and password to have ESPN on my iPad, and I can AirPlay it to the TV, to my Sony Bravia. But FS1, which I also have ID and password for, will not do that.
Mm-hmm.
It connects. Obviously, it's like I hear you because the gears are winding when I hit, you know, play, and I click the button, gears are winding. It knows in there. It knows I want to access it. The gears wind for 30 seconds, and then no entrance.
Which Apple TV do you have?
4th. I think it's the 4th.
Okay. So yeah, that should
this
work.
Chromecast shouldn't be dependent on the Apple TV at all because
Right.
it's a separate system.
Yeah, completely separate. Yeah.
And yeah, so it's frustrating, and I can see how people. When I was out at your shop when we bought our iMac, it was a couple of years ago, and there was a young kid there, and he was saying, "Well, they got this app," and I was in a cranky mood, and I started talking about, you know, they got an app for this, they got an app for that. And there should be, like in Lord of the Rings, you know, one ring to rule them all. There should be one app to rule them all because you got to have different passwords, different IDs, and it's frustrating with passwords because sometimes if you get it wrong, and instead of telling you what your ID is, which might be a security problem, but still, I'd like to know, they send you a link to change your password. Now you got to create whole new password and, you know, ID, not necessarily ID, but
Yeah, if they knew your
Who
password,
knew?
it could be leaked too easily. So
Right. And
yeah.
so now you got to have a new one. So if this happens 2 or 3 times, then I got 2 or 3 different passwords that I've had for the same app, and which one is right, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And
so a lot of people
it's
use a
frustrating for me, and my patience is really long.
And that's one thing that I always have to keep reminding myself is that a lot of regular people don't have any idea how any of this works.
Right.
And
that's why I'm a guru to a lot of the unwashed masses.
Yeah.
But
and a lot of people like using a password manager. Some people just use a book. They write their passwords in.
I've resorted to a book.
The problem is when you change your password, you got to have your book handy, and you've got to cross off the old one and put in the new one.
And make sure you don't ever lose that book.
And then don't lose that book. Yeah. In fact, there's a website called Have I Been Pwned. You can put in your email address, and it will tell you if your email address has been involved in any data breach. And the reason you need to use multiple passwords is that when one company gets breached, then that password is now public. Anyone that wants can find that password. So I know my work address has been pwned, lost in an Adobe breach. So if I use the same password at Adobe that I did at Amazon or Citibank or PayPal, the bad guys have my Amazon password and now log in there and steal all my money. So you need to use different passwords at each service, which makes it a little harder for you to manage your passwords. They also have a service at Have I Been Pwned where you can type in a password and it will tell you if that password has been leaked. Let me just try password, yes. So the password has been used 3 million times, which shows how bad a password it is. So if your password has been used by somebody else, that's a really bad password.
Let me give you an old one that's still under use. Capital M, AC, AMOS, 0922.
That's pretty generic, or not generic, pretty unique. Yeah, so that has never been used anywhere. For some reason, monkey is a very popular password, 932,000 times.
Monkey's a blackjack term now.
Is it?
I just discovered when somebody's rooting for a high card, so the dealer will go bust. They'll start yelling, monkey, 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 monkey. Yeah, I came up with my new one. My middle name, my childhood telephone number.
Mm-hmm.
It's just burned into my brain.
Yep.
It's got 7 digits.
And some people will try to use the site they're on as part of the password, but you have to be a little wary of that, because if that password is lost, so you put an AZ in your Amazon password, well then probably PP or PY is in your PayPal password. So you have to be careful about that. Rick?
We were talking a bit about DS Store the other evening, and I looked for that today. I couldn't find it. I don't know if it's changed under High Sierra or what.
It's .ds_store, and you should have hundreds of them.
I couldn't find one.
Were you telling it to search for invisible files?
Yes, I was.
So if we search for ds_store, and I need to go to File Visibility and say Invisible Files. Oh, maybe High Sierra has changed it. Oh, I bet it's APFS that's changed it.
I'm not using APFS.
Okay. That ruins my... Yeah. So there's an invisible file that keeps track of the position of your windows and the icon the applications have. And that's the ds_store. Maybe I have to preface it with the period underscore store. And because the file name starts with a period, that makes Unix makes it invisible. Let's see. So it's the desktop services, the position of the icons, the background image. It can be rebuilt. Maybe I have to do the caps.
Yeah, it looks like it gives you caps.
Yeah, but I didn't think the search was case sensitive. Store file visibility. Maybe I have to add system files as well. Include system files. No? Maybe I don't have any custom icon files. Nah, I'm sure I have some of those. They're often seen if you put a Mac file on a Windows disk and then view it on a Windows computer, because Windows doesn't know what to do with them, so it shows them to you.
I used to see them all the time.
Yeah.
And now suddenly I haven't seen them all.
And I didn't see anything in the Wikipedia article about it being deprecated.
When was the last time the Wikipedia article?
Yeah, when's the last update? Can't tell. It's also used with revision control, so it's part of the history version. If I go into the Unix layer, I should be able to find invisible files. So there's all my invisible files. And there isn't a ds_store. Interesting. There it is, .ds_store. So I'm guessing it is excluded from the search. Even though I told it to include invisible and system. So there's a grep command that will find it, but I don't know grep that well. Yeah. So one of the things that the DS store stores is the window positions, the icon positions, the view of the window, whether it's column or list, and sometimes that gets messed up. And so there's a program called Onyx from Titanium Software, and it has the ability to reset and delete a lot of temp files and cache files and system files. And one of the things that it does do is delete that the ds_store files. So if I go into here, one thing about Onyx is there's a different version for every OS, because things are different in each OS. So you got to make sure you download the right one for your OS. And now we will take a look at those settings. And actually, there are things quite a bit different in High Sierra. So Onyx does less things because it has more options, less options in High Sierra. Where'd it go? Open. There we are. Oh, I thought I did that. I have to let Onyx control my system because that's what I want it to do. So normally this is a really dangerous dialog, because some program wants access to the low-level guts of your system. Make sure you know what it is and don't just give random programs access. And from the Finder, drag. All right, so I got to drag Onyx into there. I was waiting for it to actually just show up in there itself. So I have to put Onyx in there. Under, no, I'm sorry, under accessibility. That's what I'm missing. I wasn't location services. Accessibility. And Onyx. There we are. Now it'll work. So when weird things are happening on your computer, you're getting strange messages, things don't work the way they usually did. Onyx maintenance routine, where it can rebuild a bunch of different things, is often a good step on trying to fix weird little problems. Now the system does all this type of stuff itself every now and then. There are maintenance scripts that run through the night, daily, weekly, monthly scripts. But it's sometimes nice to run it now. And so what basically all the Onyx does is execute those scripts. And actually, I didn't see the underscore, the DS underscore now. Oh, disk positions on the desktop. That's probably that. And also Spotlight Index is part of the DS underscore now too. So you may have to go into the terminal to find those files and then remove it at the terminal level.
What was strange for me too was when I was looking around, I used the keyboard shortcut Command Shift period, which will show hidden files, and I didn't see it down either.
I didn't know there was a keyboard shortcut.
Yeah,
Command Shift period. Let's see. No, it's not showing anything extra in my windows.
Or she just ran Onyx too.
Well, it's running, but I haven't executed anything. I'll quit it. So if I go back to terminal, in my home folder are lots of invisible files. There we are. That's brand new. I didn't know that. I used to use a program called TinkerTool to do that.
Yeah.
So Command Shift period now shows all the invisible files, except the DS underscore store.
Yeah. That was what was so weird.
So apparently that's such a special file, it's excluded even from that. When did they add Command Shift period? You've been using it for years and people didn't know about it, right?
No, I actually just found out about it today. But I didn't know there was such a thing.
Let's ask Google.
Found an article about it. They said it's been since no copy 10.
Oh yeah? So I used to use TinkerTool to turn all that on. Well, TinkerTool will do it for all windows all the time. Does this do it for all windows or just the window you're in?
I think it's just
No, it's all windows. I went to a different window and it's there too. Generally speaking, invisible files are invisible because they're important and you shouldn't mess with them. But sometimes you do need to mess with them.
This is the article I was reading earlier today.
Yeah. So that's from 2011, so that has been in there a while.
Yeah.
One of those undocumented features that you never saw on a features list anywhere.
Yeah.
So if we, there's this one. Let's say find, how to find. Oh, here's recursively remove. So I bet this is a grep command. General regular expression. No, that's just using the find and enter. So if you say find and give it the name, that may find where they are. In terminal, yeah. Command shift period. Turns on invisibles, not arrow. Store. So that only found it in the one directory I'm in. How do I do recursively through the rest of the computer? So that must be the F command. Goes through the rest of your folders, not just the one folder you're in. So we can go to the man page. Ha. So there's a program called man, which shows you the manual on any command. So I did man find. I wonder if there's a woman find. No. And that shows me the command and all of the parameters for that command. And F says go through the file hierarchy to traverse. Yeah. So if you like typing your commands rather than clicking on icons, the terminal's in there for you. And there's also some games that are hiding in there. Yeah, old 50s and 60s games that were in the very first computers. So terminal games. I probably have to do Mac terminal. I know there's some of them in Emacs. Old school Tetris, Pong. That was from 2002. They've been in there a very long time.
That's the one from War Games.
Yep. So Tetris. Probably Snake. Yep, Snake is there. Gomoku? Don't know that one. Screen full of dots. Pong. Doctor. Oh, I bet. Oh, this is Elijah. So there's a very early program called Elijah that was designed to be a psychiatrist to try to mimic a human response. And like most psychiatrists, whenever you ask a question, it will ask, "How do you feel about question?" How does that make you feel?
Well, what was the name and the password in War Games? It was the guy's son.
Joshua.
Joshua.
Yeah.
I think I tried an updated version of that once upon a time. Went through it and it kept asking me interesting questions and I didn't do it. But the funny thing was after I was all done, I actually felt better.
Yep.
So it worked.
So there's a multi-user dungeon game, but it's not Mud because that's apparently copyrighted. It might even be the original Adventure, the very first computer game. Yeah. Walk left. Walk straight. Enjoy rubble. It takes a long time to properly enjoy rubble.
You know where that expression, your name is Mud, comes from?
No.
Biblical.
Your name is Mud? Harry Mud? Harcourt Fenton Mud?
You've heard the expression, right?
Yeah.
Your name is Mud?
It's biblical. It goes back.
No, it goes back to the 1860s. When Lincoln was assassinated, Booth broke his leg, and on his escape, he stopped at a Dr. Mudd who treated his wound. And so the name Mud became Mud, because he was
He was convicted of being a co-conspirator. Did you watch the Discovery? Star Trek Discovery? Harry Mudd had a couple of appearances. A young Harry Mudd. So in love with Stella that he was going out of his way to get back to her. When the Harry Mudd we know couldn't stand her and was trying to get away.
Carol's uncle is in love with Stella. His wife died 20 years ago, and he still goes to the Doug's Fish Fry in Skinny Atlas, and he orders, when they ask the name for the order, he says Stella, so he can hear her name.
Stella!
It's touching in a weird way.
Yeah. Let's ask Wolfram Alpha about Stella. Ranks 45th this year.
Really? That's relatively popular.
Yeah. Well,
Charlotte and
popularity died in the 80s and 90s. Peaked in around 1890. Notable people, Stella.
Stella Maris.
Yeah.
Let's see if anybody actually knows besides Stella McCartney.
It's not up there. Guess she's not notable enough.
What about Stella Stevens?
Stella Stevens, yeah. Another actress. I don't know if there's a way to update Wolfram Alpha. Oh, there's a more. Show more.
Stella Maris is less famous than Stella Omu. I don't really know who Stella Maris is. I just know that there's a Catholic retreat named after her in Skinny Atlas.
Apparently there's a male version of Stella as well.
Well, Stella Maris would just be a sea star.
How's it read?
Yeah, very old. Not used as a male name much anymore.
But it was the male name was Stella?
Yeah.
Probably with an E at the end. Because it references steel. Nordic.
Yeah, could be. Let's try Steve. 985th. Only 200 people here. So Steve is waning in popularity. Steve peaked in 1960.
What year were you born?
64.
Okay.
Well, that's Steve. Let me try Steven. Stephen Wolfram is in there too. Yeah, Steven is with a PH is much more popular. Although that still peaked around 1950 and it's on its way out. How about with a V? That's more popular yet, so it's more commonly spelled with a V. Still peaking in 1950.
Oh, was that the peak of the baby boom?
Yeah, and that's when everybody was watching
there's
Steve
just
Allen.
like more people needing names. Than
Yeah.
I was watching Steve Allen. He named the kid Stevie. Hoping he'd be funny.
It's a good biblical name. That's where my name came from.
So who in the Bible is named Stephen?
He was the boy that held Paul's coat while they were on the road with the donkey.
Okay.
And then my middle name is Daniel.
Prophet.
Daniel popular in ancient times.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a saint.
I'm a saint. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Feast of Stephen.
Yeah.
Oh, they got a new saint, Oscar.
Saint Oscar.
Yeah, the Pope just declared him to be a saint. Oscar Romero, who's the bishop in Nicaragua that was murdered while he was saying mass.
Today is the beginning of. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. I know. I don't have the Yeah, I have the Jewish calendar on here. Go today. Shavuot. Shavuot. And
which part of Israel?
Yeah, and then
like those English language.
yeah, we got talking about this at the board meeting. We're surprised on how many Jewish holidays the JCC is actually open on. I guess they're not very orthodox around here. And then Monday, either Sunday or Monday, is Christian Pentecost, because Jesus was celebrating Shavuot with the disciples during the 50 days past Easter. And the towel day is coming up on the 25th. Gotta know where your towel is.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, we should celebrate Halloween.
And then next weekend is the National Sports Launch. Oh no, registration is closed. Yeah.
Did you register?
Yep. We have about 200 registered flyers, so it's going to be really big. We'll probably launch 1,000 rockets over the weekend. Low battery. Yeah. We're always worried about the weather. We've got some pretty good large rockets. I thought that are featured flights. That's where the some of the big rockets are being shown. Got a 3/4 scale Patriot. You don't often see this scale until you see somebody standing next to it. And Neil Brown in his Saturn V. That's his small Saturn V. He's got a bigger one.
Are there any rumors about the developments of the Worldwide Developer Conference? What might come out of that?
So the WWDC, the general expectation is, the next iOS, next Mac OS. The rumor of the next Mac Pro has pretty much been squashed. With the who was it? Someone got invited back to Apple. So last year, a bunch of bloggers got invited to Apple to talk about the Mac Pro, and we're told that a new modular Mac Pro is coming because the cylinder design didn't work out for upgrading very well, and turns out people didn't want multiple video cards and this, that, and the other thing. So they said there's a new Mac Pro coming next year. So now it's next year, and one of the same bloggers went back to Apple and said, what's the update? Apple basically said it's not this year either. So now we're thinking next year, 2019. And so, latest gossip on the 2019 Mac Pro. So it's very unlikely we'll see it at WWDC this year. Even with the 2013 cylinder Mac Pro, they announced it at WWDC, but said it wasn't shipping until December. I kind of don't think that's going to happen. Even they could announce it in June and say it'll be available January. That's probably too long. So a lot of people are speculating about what the next Mac Pro is going to be. Matthew Panzarino, that's who it was, from TechCrunch. So he was one of the 5 that got invited in 2017, and then he went back in 2018. We want to know, he hasn't said yet whether he was invited back for an update or if he started nagging them and said, it's been a year, is that new Mac Pro available yet? So I haven't seen anything specific that is rumored to be coming out. Possibly, new models. So, depending on when the last models came out, there's a lot of new rumors about new models. There's rumors about a 13-inch Air, Retina Air. So take the 12-inch MacBook and make it a 13-inch. There's rumors about a cheaper MacBook Air. And so this sort of might be related. So if there's a new 13-inch MacBook Air, the current non-Retina MacBook Air might drop in price. So it currently starts at $999. Maybe they'll drop it to $899 or even $799. One of the problems with the MacBook Air is it's pretty old technology, but it's the cheapest laptop they have. So if they can make it a little cheaper, that will get more people into it, possibly. But now, the rumors are saying they probably won't release this at WWDC. It's pushed back to third quarter. They might talk about it. See, that's always the question. Are they going to talk about it and say it's not available yet? Or do they just not talk about it, period? Let's see what Macworld thinks is coming. The short answer is nobody knows anything. Yep. And the people that do know aren't saying. Yeah. We're pretty sure the new iOS, the new Mac OS. A lot of rumors about a new iPhone SE2. There have been some supply chain rumors that have come out. So the iPhone SE is still the smaller screen size iPhone, the 4-inch model. The current model is 3 years old, so they could update that. But whether that comes out now or in September with the normal iPhone release dates, we never know. So the ticket, sort of. So you couldn't actually buy tickets to it. You got in line to reserve the chance to buy a ticket. And that sold out in seconds, like it has been doing the last few years. So then Apple will pick random drawings and give you the opportunity to buy a ticket for $1,500. And they seed tickets to some people that that are more influential. And there's also the student tickets that can often see. Is this working?
That are more influential.
Yeah, that's working. My battery's dead, so I gotta shut down my monitor. A lot of students come. In fact, last WWDC they pointed out that the youngest developer was 9. And the oldest developer was 83, I think, that came to the developer conference to talk about. $1,600 for tickets this year, all right. And 350 student scholarships are being put out. So they're meeting in San Jose now. Again this year. They met there last year. I forget, somewhere in one of these articles it said how big the room was. There's two problems: that so many people want to go that they need a massive convention space for the keynote, so they need a 10,000 seat auditorium for the keynote or more. But then the way WWDC usually works is you're broken down into seminars on different topics, and so there might be 100 seminars going on. So you need lots of smaller rooms, and so it's got to be a logistical nightmare to plan this thing. Although,
I would assume some of those smaller rooms would still have to accommodate like
hundreds of people, yeah.
400 or 500 people.
Even if they only have 1,500, 2,000 attendees, that's still a huge amount. If they follow what they did in the past, they'll be live streaming the keynote, and they make the sessions available for video download afterwards, but not live. So if you can't go, you can still watch all of the videos. You need to be a developer and log into the developer website, but it's $99 a year to become a registered Apple developer and to get access to all the developer tools. So a lot of people do it even if they don't ever plan on releasing an app to the public. Rick, did you need a developer license to do the iBooks or the iTunes stuff? Your music on iTunes?
No, iTunes you don't, and iBooks you don't. But if you do app development,
Yeah, so only app development needs to be a registered developer.
And it works for iOS and Mac OS now. So
Yeah, there's one developer plan now for both iOS and Mac OS. It used to be two separate ones. What was kind of interesting is Google and Microsoft scheduled both of their developer conferences in the same week. So all the blogs were going nuts trying to cover them both at the same time, which probably hurt the publicity of both conferences. And people that develop for both Microsoft and Google couldn't go to both of them. So that was probably a stupid thing on their part. Yeah, 100 different technical sessions. But it's mostly, like any technical conference, it's the meet and greets and the get-togethers, talking with other developers that often is more meaningful. Especially if you go multiple years, you say the same people over and over again. That's the only time you see them is when you go to that convention.
Carol, did you have a question? Like, remember you were talking about Microsoft 365?
Using, I guess you get free access to Office 365 by taking a course at MCC.
A student license, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I was just, this is my lack of knowledge here. Can I use my Mac to access it?
Yeah, Office 365 is a subscription service from Microsoft. They have home subscription services for $100 a year, and then they have business services. I think there's a limited home service. Yeah, so normally it's $100 a year, and what that lets you do is run Office apps on up to 5 users. So you can run it on 5 computers, 5 phones, and 5 tablets. Or for $69 a year for 1 user. And so that lets you run all the Office programs on your Mac, on your Windows, or on your iPhone, iPad, iOS devices. And a lot of people like that is if you have multiple people or multiple devices, because it's cheaper than $150 for each computer. And then that only works on the computer, that doesn't work on the iDevice. So if you want to use the Office apps on your iDevice, you have to pay for the subscription. The biggest disadvantage is it's a subscription. You have to pay every year. If you stop paying, it quits working. So a lot of schools and businesses business is a lot more a month, $8 per person per month. Adds up quickly. A lot of schools have an Office license for their students. And as long as you're a student there, you get a student license for the Office suite. We've seen some differences with different colleges. I think MCC was the annoying one. Maybe they've changed now. They had a student license, but not a faculty license. So if you were a faculty person, you had to pay full price for it. Where at RIT, they had anyone, student or faculty, could get the full suite for $10 as a flat purchase, no subscription needed. As long as you were a student, you could use that version. So if you really want to use the Microsoft Office suite, then that is a way to do it. And if you want to use it on your iDevice, that's one of the only ways to do it. There is also Microsoft's web service, docs.com, which is basically the Microsoft Office suite as web apps. So you run it from web pages, And the last time I checked, it worked on an iPad. And you didn't need a license for that unless you wanted to save files to the Microsoft OneDrive. But I can't get to that website at the moment. Did they change their mind again, or is it being overwhelmed and busy? Let's try a different search. Office for the web. And of course, with all the Apple devices, you get Apple's Office Suite, Pages, Keynote, Numbers. And you can also use the Google apps for free. Let's see, this is web apps. LibreOffice, yep, is one of the offshoots of OpenOffice. There we go, Office Online. A browser, yeah, so you get a browser, it works in any browser and you don't need a license. But you do need a Microsoft account, which you can get for free. And this is a personal account. And log in. Yeah, sure. I've pretty much boiled down all these terms and conditions. It basically means you're not going to do anything bad. And if you do, you won't blame them.
No one reads them.
Yeah.
People want to run their software. They don't want to take out a mortgage.
Yep. And so here I'm running Microsoft Word inside a web browser. Oop. Well, trying to. Couldn't create a document. Why not? Different problem.
Try it in Firefox.
Yeah, it might be a Safari issue. But that's another way to get a free Office suite. Although most people these days don't actually need an Office suite. You don't do much regular typing outside of your email or Facebook. So the need for writing a letter in Word is pretty minimalized these days. All right, Firefox won't even load the page. There we are. No, that's Safari again. Firefox, new, office.live.com. Now, is that it? Office web app. No, that won't load either. I know what I can try. One of the things I've run into is if I do it in a private window, it works. So I've got a cache problem. I got to clean my Safari cache, most likely. So that's one thing that Onyx can do for us. Looping back around from there, it will clean your cache and delete temp files and history files. Nope, that didn't work. Welcome back. Oh, I'm frozen. Oh, I haven't used it in a while. That's probably why. Yahoo got in trouble among many reasons. They announced a while ago that if you haven't used your Yahoo email address in a while, they were going to recycle it. So right now, when you sign up for an address with Yahoo or Apple or Google or whoever, it has to be an address no one else has ever used before. So if they recycle an address, that means someone else could get your address. Yeah. And if you happened to have, say, your PayPal recovery email sent to the old Yahoo address, then the bad guys, or whoever that is, can get into your PayPal account or Amazon or whatever. And a lot of people who've been on the internet a long time, anytime a new service comes out, you sign up for that service. and you use your current email address as the recovery address. So there were a lot of people, there was an article about it when Google Mail first came out. You sign up for Google Mail, and you used your Yahoo address as your old address. So when Yahoo announced they were going to do this, a lot of people said, oh crap, I still have a Yahoo address I haven't logged into in 10 years. So it's full of junk and spam now. But that means if they do recycle those addresses, then you're screwed. So the idea, you should log into your old addresses every now and then just to make sure you're still active. But I'm pretty sure Yahoo said they're going to not do that after all, because of the security implications. Although they did lose 3 billion passwords, so they don't seem to care too much about security.
Speaking of Yahoo, I went into my Yahoo mail account. Discovered I had like 4,000 spam type messages.
Yep.
And the only way I could delete them was a page at a time.
Yep.
I was looking for a command that would just say, you know what, just delete everything in my mailbox.
There is a button on the side. Oh, we're about out of time too.
Yeah.
See you, Bob. There's two ways to do it later. One is that you can change the preferences. So right now it's only showing me X number of oh, it's going down. It used to stop at like 50 messages in your window.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
But now, as I keep scrolling down, it keeps loading more. So just scroll all the way to the bottom.
Are you using old mail or new mail?
I'm using Yahoo Mail on the web.
Yeah, but I mean, there were 2 versions of Yahoo Mail. I haven't switched to the new version.
I don't know.
Maybe the new version.
So if I check the box, I've got 556 selected. This is all junk.
Oh, okay.
And if I hit the little arrow, I can say all. Still only 556. If I keep scrolling down, oh, that may be the end of them, 556.
Okay.
The other way to do it was in your, it was on the left somewhere, was it? No, it was in your settings. No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Roadrunner Mail. You edit your mailboxes, like you can add mailboxes for your own specific mail. And you in that edit your mailbox, here we go, classic mail. So I must be in the new mail. If I go back to classic mail, it'll probably, hopefully it'll give me the option to switch back. In the settings, there was a way to empty all the mail in your inbox in the same window there was to make different mailboxes. So that may be an option as well. So here is mailboxes, disposable. Yeah, I don't see anything here about delete all in the inbox. Yeah, disposable email address is interesting. If you want to sign up for something that requires an email address, and you just like I want to get a PDF, but you don't want to give them an email address that now you get junk on, you can make a disposable address so it disposes of itself, disappears after the email loop. So you want to sign up for PDF, you need the email address, they email it to you, and then the email goes away. A lot of people will use another service like Yahoo, because there's so much spam on Yahoo anyway. Use Yahoo as your garbage address when you're signing up for services, and then use your real address for everything else. Alrighty, yeah. Thank you all for coming. We will close everything down here. And I need to go back here. Turn that on. And, oh, looks like I turned off too much. Oh well. We'll leave a picture of the IBM display lab as a CIDER logo. And I want to capture a window, so I'm going to go back, get the CIDER logo as, there we are. That's going to be our window on the stream. So thanks all for coming. We'll see you next time.